Hello, good evening, and thanks again for another edition of Ideas Exchange. You know, on Wednesday evenings, we look at critical issues bordering our state. We bring people here and we speak to facts that should be of interest to you. I remember last week we talked about the mid-year budget review, and our focus was also on the Bank of Ghana's audited report, or somebody would say Bank of Ghana's annual report, which surprised many, especially because of the 60 billion cedi loss. Many of us may not appreciate the quantum or how colossal the amount is. Tonight, I'll try to demonstrate what it means to you and why you should be interested in so much money being written off. The Bank of Ghana is a supervisory body, and I believe you remember between 2017, 2018, 2019, the bank was cracking the whip. The bank was not sparing financial institutions which had bad managerial policies which affected their operations. And so the Bank of Ghana was busy closing down financial institutions. And at a point, some even say the Bank of Ghana itself was part of the panic withdrawals which affected many banks which were eventually added to that envelope. Today, here we are, years on, the Bank of Ghana is in crisis. You would recall that the bank itself has been making some attempts to make it look like there is no cause to worry. What has happened is just ordinary. And so if you go to the Bank of Ghana's audited report and you just go through information it has put on its own website, you would notice that it has put some information there which it calls frequently asked questions. It's a kind of public relations. So the frequently asked questions that I'm sharing on the screen are specifically referring to some critical issues. One which is of interest to me that I've curled out for the conversation tonight is that the Bank of Ghana is suggesting that, after all, if you've lost 60 billion cedis, it's normal. Because banks like Bank of Australia, UK's bank, you go to the Swiss National Bank, Central Bank of the Netherlands, the US Federal Reserves, and so on, they've also made huge losses. And so if these countries are recording losses, then it's normal for Ghana to also have some losses incurred. Now, I deliberately looked at the debt portfolio of some of these countries. They may look huge, but I'll tell you why it is insignificant, and that what the Bank of Ghana is doing is simply throwing dust in our eyes. Now, United States, for example, I checked from the World Population Review, and this is the latest debt portfolio of some of the biggest countries we know. US, $29 trillion. Japan, $13 trillion. France, $3.3 trillion. China, $10 trillion. It comes down to Singapore. I just looked at the few countries in the order of the size of the debts they owe. But if US is owing $29 trillion, will Ghana say that US is owing $29 trillion and therefore they can increase their debt portfolio? No. The reason is that US itself, which owes so much, has given more than $78 billion, $78 billion to Ukraine alone. And US is still dishing out money to people. So this explanation by the Bank of Ghana that other countries also have their central banks losing so much money because of Russia, Ukraine war, COVID, they are all flimsy excuses from my perspective as an ordinary Ghanaian. And let me explain to you what the $60 billion means. If you convert the 60 billion cedis to dollars, that's about $7.1 billion. $7.1 billion. Now, I want to water it down a little more for you to appreciate what $7.1 billion means to you. I've deliberately looked out for some flagship projects across the country. Most of them are in Accra alone, and they are here because many of you know them. Look at the Ridge Hospital. The Ridge Hospital, for example, cost us an average $250 million. Start putting down these figures, because at the end of the day, all these figures are put together will not be more than $4 billion. The Sanglemi Housing Project was in the range of $196-200 million. And this was the state of the project at the time the former government was exiting. The Bank of Ghana Hospital, a 65-bed facility, is 80 million euros. I beg you, bring the Bank of Ghana Hospital photo on the screen. This is the Bank of Ghana project that is ongoing as we speak. This is a $250 million project which is being executed. Yesterday, the minority spoke to it. But if you look into your files, you see Bank of Ghana Hospital, a 65-bed facility, which is about 80 million euros. Then you have the University of Ghana Hospital, which is $217 million. Now, all these facilities are raking in revenues because they are plowing back the investments that were made, and they are helping many people across the country. Now, the 250 million Kotoka International Airport expansion project, and we know what the Kotoka International Airport is doing. The Circle Dubai interchange was in the range of $9,400 million, and that's except of the pictures I've shown on the screen. The free SHS project, I remember on March 22nd, 2023, the Minister for Education was briefing Parliament on how much has been spent on the free SHS project from 2017 to 2021 is 5 billion cedis. 5 billion cedis. That's what Dr. Duchum was telling Parliament on the 22nd of March 2023. The N1 highway, what we call the George Bush Highway, cost us $547 million. And this was free money that came from the US under the Millennium Challenge account, or the MCC project. Then we have the, and of course, let me tell you a little more about the N1 highway. It is not the road. It comes with 6-lane, 14-kilometer stretch from Ketetekwashi to Malam interchange. It includes the Malam to La Paz, Achimota, Legon interchange, Jowulu, and the Tetekwashi interchanges. And all this cost $547 million. The Jubilee House, the office of the president, cost the range of $135 million. The Pong Water Expansion Project, remember this particular project has stopped the yellow gallon. There was a time in Accra we spoke about yellow gallons. This Pong Water Supply Expansion Project cost us $273 million. The Temamoto Way interchange cost us in the range of $570 million. And that's what the president himself was saying when he was commissioning the project. The Pokwasi interchange project, the initial cost was $94 million. The African Development Bank was to provide $83 million, and Government of Ghana was to provide $11.7 million. I understand when the NPP assumed office, they said they wanted to do some reshaping of the project, and they went for additional loan. And the Pokwasi interchange project does not stop there. It includes a 6.5-kilometer Awoshi to Pokwasi Road, an interchange at the extension of the ACP junction to Awoshi to Nsawam, 2 footbridges, the widening of the Nsawam Road project, and goes on and on. Now, the reason why I'm referring to all this is that you may be living in a newly developed community, a community that is sprawling. Your roads are bad, it's raining, you can't drive through those roads. Now, all these projects that I've referred to, when I put the cost together, it was less than $3.9 billion. So if the Bank of Ghana says it's losing or it's lost 60 billion cedis, which is about $7.1 billion, then you can imagine how big that amount is and why you should be interested in this conversation. Especially because the Bank of Ghana says it lost that money within 1 year, 1 financial year. And many of the projects I've referenced took several years, some 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to complete. I'll introduce my guest to you tonight. My guest is a young man, very experienced. He is a seasoned financial services professional with over 22 years of experience. He has a master's degree in economic policy management, has studied various courses, has experience in many projects, risk-based supervision, enterprise-wide risk management, banking and corporate treasury management, credit risk management and administration, and has a certificate in project management. He has worked with business communities, development partners, foreign investors, international financial institutions, and prior to joining Watson Advisors, Kosi held positions at the Provident Insurance Company, the Strategic African Securities Financing Group, that's SAS, Capital Bank, and the Securities and Exchange Commission here, Ghana. Koshi Jokoto is an economic policy and financial analyst. He's my guest tonight to have a conversation on this issue about the Bank of Ghana, the 60 billion cedi loss, the issues surrounding the losses, what it means to the economy, to the financial sector itself, and government's fiscal space to be able to breathe in, and lessons going forward. Koshi, you are welcome.
Thank you, my brother. That is a long one.
That's a long one. Happy to see you.
Happy to see you.
What was going through your mind when I deliberately chose some specific project? Because all these projects have direct impact on the economy because of the plowback, of course, creating opportunities for young men who need jobs, opening up access for people to move around, and all these are just about, will just form about 2/3 of the amount of money Bank of Ghana has lost within 1 year.
Eric, it is intriguing and surprising that given the kind of situation we find ourselves in as a country, and the person who has our last resort, which is the Bank of Ghana, has to do this at this critical point in time. It's like you are in a ship that is overloaded with cargo, heading toward turbulent waters. And at the time of entering into the turbulent waters, there are people like the governor and the rest who are digging holes and creating leaks in this ship. That is what we find ourselves in currently.
Now, the Bank of Ghana has managed some explanation. They made reference to the DDEP, some Kuku bond, cash, depreciation of the cedi, and other reasons why they think that people should not be so angry because they were serving the interest of the state. From the conversations you have monitored, from what you know in the financial circles, how does this come to you?
It's surprising to hear Bank of Ghana to give this type of reasons, because they should be apologizing to Ghanaians and telling us we are sorry, we didn't understand that what we were doing was going to land us at where we find ourselves. If you are the lender of last resort to government, which is the Bank of Ghana and its leadership, and your idea is to save an economy that is sinking, do you go and do stuff that will rather sink yourself and turn around and ask for money from the government? Now what they are saying is it's going to take them 6 to 7 years to restore themselves to where they were.
That's
the issue about recapitalization. Exactly, and they need recapitalization. So who does that? So you have a policy position that you are supposed to be the lender of last resort. So if the country is even managed to the extent that it cannot resurrect, you have to save it. You don't go and kill yourself first before the country. You expose everybody and every institution. And that is exactly what Bank of Ghana has done. Because even if you accumulate over even 10 years of maybe profit they have retained over the past years, it will not even account to the 60.8 billion loss they have made in 1 year.
How significant is that?
My brother, you have mentioned all the projects. When you convert this into dollars, it is more than twice the amount we are going for from the IMF.
Mm-hmm.
In the absence of that, the conditionalities that the IMF has imposed on us as Ghanaians, as citizens, for no wrong done, we were sitting somewhere minding our own business. But we are the ones who are supposed to face the brunt of all these conditionalities. Remember, every other 3 months, electricity bill, water bill will go up. Government is not going to pay it for everybody. Government is paying it for nobody. Remember, taxes upon taxes that we have been subjected to the annoyance that even what the rot they have cost. And there are theories that even within the banks believe that these things are being done deliberately to make the nation anemic and subject it to subjugation. So whatever they say is what some few people, what they say is what the nation should respond to, because they have taken all the money from what? The country into their individual interests.
Now, does this issue about the bank's financial stability and policy solvency, how has this impacted on it? And by so speaking, its capacity to be able to regulate the industry?
Policy solvency basically is the ability of the Bank of Ghana to be able to execute its mandates. Because you should have the financial strength, you should have the stability, and you should have the right frame of mind in order to do the policy solvency, which includes the price stabilization, which includes monetary policy management, and the rest. The fact is that once you have lifted yourself from stability to a state of where you are insolvent or bankrupt, you have compromised all these standards. So you cannot imagine what Bank of Ghana has done, that the governor is in charge of, is a conductor for an orchestra, which is the whole financial setup and Ghana's economy. And the button for the orchestration is weak. How are you able to conduct the individuals within the what? The
industry.
The orchestra, which is the larger population. Because they have responsibility for the whole financial sector, and they have responsibility for the growth and progress of Ghana's economy. And they themselves have become bankrupt. How are you going to do it? So the whole policy solvency is compromised.
And when you say it's compromised, there are two schools of thought. One school of thought is that perhaps there is the need for an independent investigation into Bank of Ghana's own audited reports, regardless of the external auditors who have gone through, to find out if indeed the money actually has been wasted or has been lost as a result of the reasons government has assigned to where we are now.
I completely agree with that, because there are facts behind figures. There are facts behind figures. And we can only get those facts when an independent person or a committee is allowed to go into the details of the finance. Because some of the outrageous cost centers suddenly that sprang up are unimaginable. In fact, you cannot compare it to any other central bank within the sub-region or even within our neighbors. It is completely outrageous. And it is not only Ghana. that was affected by COVID.
No, but they make reference to some banks which are quite bigger than Bank of Ghana. So in my preamble, I made reference to some of these banks like the Reserve Bank of Australia, UK government, which they said is facing a 150 billion bill to cover Bank of England's losses, according to the Financial Times. That's what the Bank of Ghana was referencing, the Swiss National Bank, the Central Bank of the Netherlands, and so on. So they are trying to equalize by suggesting that, look, it is not limited to Ghana alone.
It is laughable. It is laughable. It's just like clutching on straws, all right, which cannot hold. The economy, the size of economy that we have, can they compare it? Have they compared it to those economies? The laws that governs the Bank of Ghana and the financial management in Ghana, have they compared it? Are they allowed to do what they have done? The question is no. Because there are laws that guides what they are supposed to do. What they are doing is completely illegal. What they are doing is not allowed by the laws of Ghana. And what they are comparing is like comparing apple and oranges. The economy that we have, the state of our economy. How many of these countries that they have listed is going through debt exchange?
None.
None of them. Okay. How many of these countries you can compare Ghana's economy to? None. And as I can go on and on and on. The fact is that we shouldn't be comparing what they have done. What they have done is complete recklessness. And it is unacceptable. To the extent that they have even started planning to come and task Ghanaians in order to recapitalize Bank of Ghana.
Well,
must we get there?
I'm sure when we get there, we'll discuss whether we need to get there. That's a rhetorical question. My guest is Koshi Jokoto, economic policy analyst, economic policy and financial analyst. Our topic is Bank of Ghana's solvency crisis, dented credibility, and impact on the monetary policy and financial markets. Now, first of all, do you think that from what we have seen, the bank's credibility has sunk that low to the extent that people will look at it in two ways to be very sure of the things they do?
In my earlier submission, I said that the bank's policy solvency has been compromised. In fact, what it means is that any other central bank that want to do transaction with Ghana will look at it again, because there are transactions between central banks like currency swaps and the rest to manage their portfolios and the rest. So nobody want to do transactions with an insolvent institution. In fact, as we speak right now, Bank of Ghana does not have money that belongs to it.
That's serious.
So it is owing more than it can handle. Its asset cannot pay. Another meaning of that is that instead of them telling us the truth that they need debt exchange because they can't pay their debt. They can't pay their debt. They are telling us that they need recapitalization. So, in order not to bother Ghanaians that, oh, the third level of debt exchange is coming. Just as we said the second level was going to come. Government said no, there was nothing going to come. Today, they are negotiating for the second level of the debt exchange. This is the third level of the debt exchange. Because the Bank of Ghana itself cannot pay its debts. So they need debt exchange. So they are saying that they need recapitalization. How? Okay, the government that is bankrupt, and you said you were trying to help. You are expecting that government to now help you. Who does that in financial management?
Is it criminal?
What has happened is inefficient risk management, lack of financial planning, and less control, less cost control. Because if you look at some of the cost centers that they have displayed, it means that it was free for all. Everybody was just spending money. And if you have done debt exchange, as they have made us to believe, that is because of the debt exchange, that is why they find themselves in where we are. If you knew that, why these excessive cost centers, where you have to use millions? For instance, you have to use 131.6 million on motor vehicles maintenance. We are not talking about 1 million. We are not talking about 10 million Ghana cedis. We are not talking about 20, 50, 80. Over 130 million. So if you own a garage and you have the contract to maintain Bank of Ghana cars, you can imagine how much you are worth. Within 1 year, this is not over 10 years. You have to use 8.6 million cedis just for directors. So it goes on and on. Communication. What is Bank of Ghana communicating? If you put all the media houses together in Ghana, in 2022, they didn't use 32 million cedis.
But communication to them could mean other forms of
Please tell me what is communication. Bank of Ghana is not in the business of communicating. Is that their core business? Why would you use 32 million? And you are doing all this in the midst of knowing that you are sinking. That is why I said, when they realized the ship is overloaded, they were still digging leaks inside the ship. And where are they taking us to?
There is the possibility of the Bank of Ghana printing more money. Today, we understand inflation has gone up again. So that means for 3 consecutive months, we are seeing a gradual rise in inflation. The bank goes to increase policy rate with the explanation that they want to fight inflation. They turn around to print more money, which triggers inflation. Yeah. And now that's where we are. Yeah. So if the Bank of Ghana is insolvent and wants to recapitalize, what are the options available? They talk about making profit or getting monies from the transactions or the operations they do. But what is the potential source of income if they want to recapitalize?
Or rather, recapitalize, the person they are expecting to recapitalize them is already bankrupt. That is the government. That is why the leadership of the Bank of Ghana must be looked at again. And I completely support what the NDC is saying, that the governor and the deputy should just pack their things and go, because nobody does this for your country. How would they talk about this if it is their business? Would they operate it like this? As
stakeholders in the industry...
Let me come back to the recapitalization. It is with this type of... If you want to recapitalize Bank of Ghana, you do not need these people to recapitalize it. Because you will be creating more problem. What they need is not money. What they need is understanding of financial management, planning, and cost control.
Are you suggesting that with all
because
these
if
names
you
on
put
the board
resources,
are incompetent?
Look at the people. We have respect for all the people at the board. And the governor, which I have even had when I was at Strategic African Security, we were doing the Golden Jubilee bond. And he was, at that time, the head of Treasury. So we had made a couple of interactions during that time, Kufuor's time, for the first bond Ghana issued. The fact is that he has a higher position and he's supposed to sail this ship the right way. He has not done that. And people should be questioning for what they have.
So at this stage, I want to, and I'm sure many of you have heard it already, but for the benefit of doubt, let's listen to the minority leader, Atoforsen, the strong case he makes for the call on the governor and his deputies to vacate posts in the next 20 days.
As for him, he's done everything right. and we should blame it on Ken Ofori-Atta and Dr. Bawumia for asking him to write government debt of about 48 billion off. Clearly, the Bank of Ghana in the year 2022 made a loss of 60 billion. Of this 60 billion, they wrote off about 48 billion, isn't it? So it tells you that even without the write-off, the governor, the actions of the governor and his inactions has actually collapsed the central bank ahead of the domestic debt exchange. Yes. So if you take 48 million from 60 billion, it still have about 12 billion. As we speak, the central bank has a negative equity of 55 billion Ghana cedis. Negative equity. Now, it means that they don't have any surplus, any money there. He's building a head office at the cost of $250 million. This simply means that he's printed additional money to finance the construction of the new head office. So this guy will not stop. And Kwame said that it's the fastest growing building in Accra, project in Accra. In Ghana. So he could tell you that since he's the printer, he's only printing by the day. And every minute when he wakes up, he prints, and he prints to build head office. So clearly, this guy will not learn. And that is why we are urging you all, colleagues, fellow Ghanaians, our brothers and sisters from the media, that join us in this call. It is for us to secure our country. We need to secure our country. This is our motherland. We have no other country. We have to get this man out. Let us get a new governor, and let that governor come in and learn that the predecessor was pushed out for ABCD, so he will not go there. If we are not careful and we are to allow this governor to stay in the office, what will happen is that we will set bad precedent for future managers to do same and to destroy our livelihood. He has depleted Ghana's reserve to about 1 week of import cover. The finance minister informed us that even with the IMF money, additional drawdown from the IMF, by the end of the year, Ghana's net international reserve will be about 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Is this the governor we want to keep in office? He has messed us up so much that we cannot wait to see his back. 21 days' time, we say bye-bye to the governor.
The minority leader, Dr. Kessel Atto Forson. What we know is that the Bank of Ghana is lacing its boots for another response to what the NDC MPs have been speaking to. Now, the NPP's Director of Communications, Richard Ahianyo, has also been speaking to this issue, and this is his response. Central banks across the world are posting heavy losses, and the NDC knows about this. The Bank of England is owed in excess a debt on their books. The Swiss bank is also owed. This is an incident happening across board. This is because all economies are trying to build back due to COVID-19 and Russian-Ukraine war. Is the NDC trying to turn the Bank of Ghana? Is the NDC trying to run the Bank of Ghana now? Is that the point they want to communicate to us, that the Bank of Ghana cannot make a decision until they refer to the NDC? The relevant message any political party should communicate now is how to strengthen this recovery. How do we make this recovery long-term, and how do we turn the curve and remain on a path to growth? Now, after listening to the NDC's demand, which you subscribed to in your earlier conversation before we listened to Dr. Kessel Atto Forson, and then hearing the position of the NPP through the Director of Communications, how do you compare the two?
Richard Ahianyo understands what is happening to Bank of Ghana. If he does, he won't be making these pedestrian comments.
But he makes reference to the same thing the Bank of Ghana was saying about central banks of some countries which have made losses.
Okay, how many of those losses are compared to the economy? If you take the percentage, if they are the losses compared to their GDP is about 1% or 0.5%, Ghana's own is more than 5%. So relativity issues. But the fact is that if you look at, don't look at only the losses in quotes. Where were these losses incurred? What caused it? That is the relevance of what he should be talking about. So he can explain to us that they have used 357 million for banking supervision. Okay, Bank of Ghana does not use consultants to supervise banks. All right?
Right.
It is normal salary for workers of the banking supervision that are paid as a worker of Bank of Ghana. So what exactly has caused additional banking supervision to the extent of almost 400 million Ghana cedis, with a Bank of Ghana that is already bleeding and is unable to pay its debts? If you look at even the expense, the interest expense, you can see clearly they are unable to pay. So they keep incurring extra interest expense. And one thing that we have also discovered in the analysis of the financial statement is they have excluded the provision they are supposed to make for debt, the interest payment that we have stopped up to now in the financial statement has not been included. If they had included, I would have gone over 100 billion. So there are a lot of things going on. So Richard Ariagba should just relax. Try to understand. Ask question, Bank of Ghana, why must you spend 32 million on communication? Why must you spend computer-related expense? What is computer? If you buy computer, you have bought computer, isn't it?
Does it come across as cooked figures just to make an attempt to balance the books?
Of course, if you look at it carefully, you will realize that some of the chart of account are not normal. You won't say it's cooked, but they are not normal. It's like they are just padding figures in order to make the situation look even better that we see in it now. So it is worrying, and as you have mentioned, it is better an independent institution goes into this, and let's see the schedules, the component of all these expenses, how they came about. Because there's something happening that is not clear at Bank of Ghana, and this does not send a good signal to the whole industry, the whole financial sector, even our international partners. It does not, in fact, our credibility is at the lowest level as we see, even within Africa. I do not think there's any country that we can compare our central bank to in Africa. Well, have they mentioned any African country in all those countries?
No.
Have they mentioned any of our neighbors? No. So what is it about only institutions that this government have its people there and they are managing? We shouldn't even talk about Cocoa Board.
Well, that's quite serious. My guest is Kosi Jokoto, economic policy and financial analyst. We'll be taking a brief break. When we come back, we want to look at the way forward. There are related issues that I have penciled here for conversation. The erosions of the bank's equity base, what it means, what lessons we can learn from what Bank of Ghana has done, and how this mismanagement of Bank of Ghana is affecting your personal interest. And of course, for me, I would say why you should be angry as a Ghanaian and not sit on the fence, but join the chorus to put pressure on those at the helm of affairs to do right things.
In just a matter of months, 4 African countries have had coups that have seen the ousting of their leaders. Leaders they claim are puppets placed by France, so they can do whatever they want with the country and their resources. One may think they are wrong, but the fact that this got France angry and threatens to retaliate sends a message of what is really happening. France has threatened to wage an attack on Niger, who just had a military coup, and says the military leaders are a threat to their interest. They just displaced over 1,000 French troops from Mali to the capital city of Niger. But why is France so worried? What interest are they protecting? Well, if you haven't been current, let me bring you up to speed. Niger military leaders just placed a ban on the export of uranium and gold, especially to France. Uranium is a major mineral needed by France in its nuclear power plants. Uranium from Niger powers over 1/3 of homes in France, yet over 85% of Niger doesn't know what electricity is. Isn't that unfair? I mean, it is only fair if France helped in developing places and make them enjoy even a piece of their uranium. As a matter of fact, it is not just France. 25% of uranium entering the European Union comes from Niger. It is only logical that one day people will come to the realization that they are being cheated. And they just did. But France has decided they won't let it slide. France says it will do everything to protect its interest in Niger. It will be important to note that the USA also has a military base in Niger, and also you can remember it is a NATO member too. And you know, whenever any NATO country is at war, other NATO member countries come to help. This is exactly what is about to happen. The military leaders of Niger's neighboring countries notice the pattern and decide to back Niger. Who are these leaders and what pattern have they noticed, and why do they back Niger? Well, if you've not been informed, Mali and Burkina Faso have also had coups in their countries taken over by the military leaders too. Mali is led by Assimi Goïta, while Burkina Faso is led by Ibrahim Traoré. These two are strongly in favor of France leaving all of French Africa. They also warned that any attack on Niger means an attack on Mali and Burkina Faso too. They warned France and the US that they won't hesitate to send in troops to back Niger. Other ECOWAS member states condemn this act too, especially as the president of Niger is held hostage, and they demand that he be freed. They also gave Niger a 7-day ultimatum to let him go. As a matter of fact, Nigeria has closed its borders and stopped all trade with Niger. The economy between Nigeria and Niger has slowed as a result of this, and the people of Niger suffer already as the country's economy heavily depended on Nigeria. The concern of Mali and Burkina Faso is that they see this as the same thing that happened to Libya. The fight starts with one NATO member, and at the end of the day, the country is at war with many NATO members. Can you see the similarity? Libya is in bad shape today because of its richness in oil. Congo is in constant conflict because it is so rich in natural resources, and only one person is benefiting from this: France. Today, Niger bans the export of its natural resource, and tit becomes a threat to France's interest. What do you think about this? Do you think Niger should continue trading with France for peace to reign? Do you think Burkina Faso and Mali should send in troops to defend Niger? As for us, we love to see a world where every country uses its resources to make its people happy and rich while sharing a bit of God's blessings to the world with other countries. Niger is the second poorest country in the world, and this isn't fair. They have what it takes to make them rich and comfortable.
This was food for thought. I deliberately brought it for you to reflect on and be wondering what is really going on. The fact is, we've almost depleted our good resources because we are scrambling for what is left and destroying our environment. And we know that many Western or powerful countries are benefiting from that resource, which perhaps would have come in to cushion us if the central bank, for example, is messing up. And that is the bigger picture. When we come back, the conversation will continue.
Get ready for the ultimate business extravaganza. Bangkok Global Fair 2023.
Introducing the Vanuatu DR Congo Ghana Global Fair 2023, where innovation sparks and opportunities ignite.
Join us from 22nd to 23rd August 2023 and unleash your potential with game-changing insights from industry experts from all over the world, converging in Accra, Ghana.
Explore the future of energy, power, mining, agribusiness, tourism, oil and gas, finance, and more. Connect with top-notch entrepreneurs from Vanuatu, DR Congo, Ghana, and the Global Village. Forge alliances, connect with people that matter, and propel your business to greater heights.
Beyond business, experience the rich heritage and vibrant spirit of these incredible nations and across the globe.
Bangkok Global Fair 2023.
Unleash the power of collaboration.
Exhibition spaces is available. Register now.
Don't miss out. Tickets available on VanuatuTradeCommissionGH.com/event tickets.
Welcome back. This is Ideas Exchange on TVXYZ. It will come your way on Wednesdays between 8 and 9 p.m. My guest tonight is Koshi Jokoto, a financial and economic policy analyst. And we're looking at the Bank of Ghana's colossal loss, 60 billion cedis. We try to break it down by looking at what it means in dollar terms, about $7.1 billion. We are going for just 3 from the IMF. And you and I know what we have to do to pay for the $3 billion. And I've also tried to break down how much it took for Ghana to spend just about $4 billion for several projects I've cited. I just selected a few, but the ones I selected are popular projects that Ghanaians have spoken about. And therefore, when I share it, it will be closer to you. And I said, just look around your neighborhood. If you live in an area where your roads are bad, and perhaps government will need about 2 million cedis to fix that road, and people are simply taking bad decisions to cover up and to cover their messes, and you and I have to suffer for this, then it's an issue. We are also hearing from this conversation that there is the possibility for a 4th debt exchange program, or Bank of Ghana, through government, may be compelling you and I, just as you are paying for COVID levy, or you are paying for the water you took under COVID, you may be paying something small to help Bank of Ghana recapitalize. Now, let us look at what this means to the average Ghanaian who is doing business, the average Ghanaian who perhaps is dependent on the improvement of the economy to have some breathing space, and what it means to the investment community.
Okay, Eric. See, the most grievous of what Bank of Ghana has done is taking money, or the value of money, from the ordinary person to themselves and misapply them. Why do I say that? If previously, let's say 2 years ago, you were earning like maybe 10,000 cedis.
Mm-hmm.
Effectively, you are earning about 4,000 cedis today with the same quantum of money. What has happened? Bank of Ghana has successfully taken value from your money, that is reducing your purchasing power, and to themselves, and apply them. And this happened when excess money is pushed into the system through printing of money and financing corrupt government activities. It is called negative tax. And how does this work? You know, government has introduced some various taxes. You know, all the taxes have been increased, and including new ones, tax handles that were introduced. It was still not sufficient for government. One of the ways to get money from people is to print money excessively into the economy. That is why there are laws that govern those things. But this governor and its membership never obeyed those laws. That is the sad aspect. So the ordinary person that was earning like 2,000 cedis, now the value of that money is about 400 cedis or 600 cedis. So you have been impoverished. In fact, the World Bank's report says over 850,000 people have been pushed into the poverty line. What it also means is that a lot more people have been made poor by that margin, including you and I. That is why we are all suffering.
No, but when I listened to the finance minister when he presented the mid-year budget review, he suggested that they are not bringing new taxes, and then the assurances, because I read from the Bank of Ghana's website that as of April this year, they had entered into an agreement with government that financing government activities, they were going to pull the brakes, and therefore the wrong they did 2 years ago or last year may not happen again. Are these not signs of a government that is waking up to the mess that has been created?
It just sound when you hear them, it just sound like they didn't understand what they were doing. So when the IMF came in and said one of the conditionalities is to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana that we are no longer going to print money. If it were to be a prudent thing to do, why are you signing a memorandum of understanding?
So IMF is rather our savior.
IMF had to help us, else we do not know how they were going to take Ghana to. And all the things they have said in the mid-year budget was completely anchored on the requirement of IMF. They said nothing new, and I heard the finance minister saying that they were going to bring a new policy to develop what. There was nothing new in what he said. They were all anchored on what? The IMF requirements. So if you listen to them, you wonder whether they understand, and they were congratulating themselves for implementing the IMF conditionality. That is the level of inept that we have witnessed.
So how easy is it for Bank of Ghana to restore its equity position?
I was listening to the director of something who was doing the PR job? Is it director of research?
Yes.
Yeah, was saying about 6 to 7 years they are able to maybe retain profit. Not even maybe, they said they will retain profit in order to do that. 6 to 7 years, you have used 1 year and you want to use 6 to 7 years to recapitalize yourself through retained profit. That is not sustainable, because the structures that has been put in place to leak the money, it is still there. So if you want to get it corrected, you don't go and look for new money into an old problem. So Bank of Ghana needs a special attention.
So beyond the NDC, which says that after 21 days, and today is so day one is passed, so after 20 days, they are going to mass up at the premises of the Bank of Ghana, picket there till Dr. Addison and his 2 deputies leave. Apart from that initiative, what differently can other stakeholders do to put pressure on them to leave?
My main problem is the middle class of this country, who have decided to keep quiet for some strange reason. Listen, if this country sinks, we are all in it. Please get up and make your point. Get up and talk. Because we cannot leave this to only politics. If this country succeeds, it is for all of us, my brother. But if we sit down, we say, oh, I am not a politician. You don't need to be a politician to make your point. You don't need to be a politician to tell that, listen, you are not leading me to the right way. What most of them are doing is, okay, then let me go to UK. Listen, you can go to UK. One day you will find yourself over here. You can go to the US. You will find yourself over here. Let's all get up and rise up and save this country. Talk about what is going wrong. We cannot leave this to maybe the NDC or the MPP with Regis Arangba to come and throw dust into the eyes of the people. No, this country is going down, and we all have a responsibility to talk and save it.
Do you fear for a country where you have a labor union or organized labor who know that 60 to 70% of the direct taxes that are paid are from their members?
Yeah.
And they know how much it costs the state if it cannot mobilize resources to be able to have some breathing space. Yet, they cannot speak to issues as you talked about, referencing the middle class.
The labor, they should know their pensions are at risk, because the government is pushing to include them in what?
And the TUC
exchange.
has issued, I've heard the TUC speak to the issue that they have seen the new document, they are satisfied with it, and they are ready for negotiations, and any other group within organized labor which does not want to be part can decide to opt out.
Yeah.
But if even government decides to go into that negotiation with them under the DDEP, and the economy is at this pace, and they are not speaking to it, what are the risk factors to the capital under the umbrella of pensions?
Or rather, what they are failing to appreciate is that they are at pension is where you need money most, not this time that you are on salary. At pension, you will need money most. And what this government needs, it is not money from other people, because there's no amount of money given to this government that they will not be able to spend, because they have created a structure that is able to bring every institution down, and collectively bring the whole country down. So what they need to do is to resist. Because listen, if you take even SNIT, go and look at, do inflation index and see the average benefit people were getting in 5 years or 10 years and what they are getting now. And index it with inflation. It's woefully inadequate. And most pensioners have become worse.
When I was growing up,
and the only savior is the tier 2, which government want to touch now. In fact, the SNIT pension, government is not paying for many years now. If you like, check. Government is not paying. And SNIT needs to get that money and invest in order to get a good portfolio, in order to give you good pension. You are not going to get good pension. Now, even your own tier 2, that you have control over, government does not have control over, you want to allow government to come for it. And I do not know who is advising them.
Well, it looks scary because COCOBOD, for example, has become a subject because when we were growing, all we heard was that cocoa, like gold, were the backbone of our economy. But where we sit now, it appears as if that institution is also in debt crisis.
Yeah, COCOBOD is almost collapsed like the Bank of Ghana. I saw a document that they have sent a strategic plan to cabinet for them to revive the COCOBOD. COCOBOD that we all knew that they could stood on their own balance sheet and borrow from outside the country. Today, they are unable to do that because somebody has deliberately run it down. And we are watching.
What do you think is the reason for this high level of wastage that I call it, which is going on with some level of impunity, and we seem to be sitting with our hands clipped and nobody is crying?
I feel most people think that if the country is going down or goes down, they will survive. Nobody is going to survive it. As long as you live here, nobody is going to survive it. So it is the time for us to rethink and know that we have a country to build collectively, not for some people. Not for some people to build it for that. Because at this stage, we have given it to a group of people. They have not been able. In fact, this country has retrogressed for more than 20 years. It's going to take years for us to build this country to where it was before this government came into power.
Now, before we go, I went into the archives because just this week there was this controversy about the Sanglemi housing project. Remember, the president commissioned performed a groundbreaking ceremony for some housing units, about 8,000 of them, to be constructed at Pokuase. We are told it is doing it jointly with the private sector. There were issues about whether Parliament must approve or otherwise. The President and the Minister for Works and Housing were suggesting that the Sanglemi housing project has been waste to this country because it will be much more expensive to complete it than to other than that, they have to give it to the private person to work on it. Some are saying it is a ploy to sell it off to a private person who is among the cronies close to government. But I remember between 2017 and 2018, Hassan Ayariga went there. I knew that at the time he was going there, some of the projects were ready for occupation. And I've also seen publications where the MP for Ningo Pram Pram is saying that some police officers went to steal some of the items in those buildings worth about $5 million. And that case is before the police and they are trying to cover up. But listen to Hassan Ayariga, a patriot who felt those buildings must not go waste. And 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and the taxpayer whose money was used to mortgage for the loan, $200 million for that project and the state at which it was, we are looking on, and I don't know whether you and I should call ourselves serious people in a country who want better for ourselves, or simply, I don't want to use a strong word. So you listen to Hassan Ayariga.
The glasses will break. All the windows will break. Can you imagine? Look at the noise. This is our taxpayers' money. It doesn't belong to any party. It's not for NDC, it's not for MPP, it's not for APC. It's for the taxpayers. We pay taxes to build this. And we are wasting it. And we sit down and go and borrow money. And this is what we do with the money borrowed. Just for some people to make money, and then we waste it here. This is it. There's no end. We can't even access the entrance. We can't even access the entrance. Huh? We can't even access the entrance. Look, we can't even find an entrance to the.
I don't know whether you are angry at this stage. I'm not provoking you, but I'm telling you facts that are things that we cannot run away from. Bungalows which were built as recently as 2015 were pulled down just around Parliament House. Passport offices and other facilities belonging to private people were pulled down. And we spent over $58 million. And it is just a whole representing a project called National Cathedral. And then if you look at what Hassan Ayariga spoke about, and then we sit back and Bank of Ghana will plunge us into this mess, I can imagine what you and I have prepared ourselves for in the next few months or years to come. Before we go, just 1 minute, can you wrap up? That's your camera. What do you think is on your heart you want to speak about?
Eric, to our cherished viewers, we plead with them that what is happening to this country is very drastic, and we need everybody to speak up, because in the absence of that, where we will find ourselves in the near future will not be palatable. This is not about politics. This is about the country. This is about our livelihood. This is about the future of our children and generations to come. What is happening is just some few people who have decided to enrich themselves at the expense of all of us. And we shouldn't allow this to happen. If you sleep today peacefully and you wake up, that does not mean that everything is fine. Watch around you, because the majority of Ghanaian youth are the younger generations who are facing serious issues. No jobs, no money to eat, and very soon, if they don't eat me, they will eat you.
Well, I cannot be eating, so maybe I'll join the eaters. And what I will say is continue praying for Ghana. My guest has been Kosik Jokoto, economic policy and financial analyst. Our topic is on the screen: Bank of Ghana's credibility crisis, solvency crisis. We looked at the impact on the monetary policy and, of course, financial markets. My name is Eric Ahianyo. See you again next week. Tomorrow, this program will be played back between 1 and 2 p.m.